ulterior motives and secondary narratives that are not immediately revealed. The word you used was anomalies, and that seems like an accurate one.
Russell, thank you so much for joining us.
Luke,
really appreciate
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brianna Morello, nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor. We talked a little bit yesterday. You were talking about, I'm a little kind of scared to approach this entire situation. You've talked to a lot of people. You've been able to have a lot of incredible people on your show here on Rumble. What's your kind of response? What's your take from all of this? Since it's very intense, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of politicking going around. But obviously, everyone's talking about Trump's assassination. What's your kind of the attempted assassination? What's your take from everything that you're just getting inundated with?
Luke, and Brianna, I feel so incredibly overstimulated by being here because when we spoke yesterday, we discussed that you've been to numerous conventions before. I've never been to one. So it's been such a short period of time in count. Just while I was walking around this morning, JD Vance on a stroll, podcasting while Bongino's over there doing his thing, running into you and Jeremy from the Quarter in. It's just been sort of overwhelming and extraordinary. And of course, as you point out, it's happening in the aftermath of this unusual, extraordinary political moment that is going to be, I suppose, defining and may have been yet more defining had the dynamics been different by a magnitude of a centimetre or so. I've been wondering in the conversations that I've been having whether this can indeed become a moment of unity and significant change, or will it become a moment of further polarization? Because I know we look at some similar content, although I bow to your superior knowledge when it comes to the more esoteric conspiracy theories that are out there. And I'm seeing sort of like, depending on what side of the establishment line you fall, this is something that's fascinating me. People saying, hold on a minute, who's the woman in the black hat? What's going on when those Secret Service officials move? But then on the other side of the aisle, and of course I don't mean the institutional political aisle, I mean the cultural aisle, people are saying, well, Trump dispatched with his security detail 2 weeks before. Essentially what I'm saying is there are conspiracy theories now in a portion of the culture that, were we talking about the pandemic, would not have entertained anything except for the legacy media position. I find it extraordinary. So to be in the middle of this event, part circus, part trade fair, it's really confusing and overwhelming. And I'm wondering how you feel about it, given that you are more experienced, because this is even for conventions, which I imagine are always heightened, this is a very particular event, I'm sure, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is a groundbreaking event that everyone's talking about, everyone's looking at, everyone's trying to assess and understand. And I think a lot of people are still very emotionally high after the latest events where literally it was just a centimeter away from destroying this country from within. We were so lucky. We were so blessed, because if the outcome was a little bit different that particular Saturday, the country would be totally different than it is right now. And I think a lot of people realize it. And I think a lot of people are on edge because they're understanding how fragile our entire system is. The media has been pushing a larger divide and conquer agenda for about 15 plus years, very, very heavily pushing people on the opposite sides of the political spectrum, making people hate each other, making people not like each other. Echo chambers have created a system where we're not able to kind of understand each other. And I think now we have reached a crucial point where people are saying, wow, this is real. The game has changed. The rules are totally different. And I still see an aspect of the RNC and the Republicans trying to play by these specific rules, but I see them absolutely faulting and not understanding the bigger consequences here and the bigger kind of realization that the government here is lying through their teeth. The Secret Service released a statement today saying that they didn't have agents there at that particular rooftop where this shooter was because the roof was sloped. That's an obvious lie because sniper teams were on another sloped roof. So why are they so blatantly lying? As we also found out that the sniper was literally on top of a police command headquarters. Police officers saw him for 26 plus minutes on the roof and they decided to still let Donald Trump speak. They never took him off of the stage. That, to me, clearly highlights how there's a bigger agenda at play here and something far more sinister than I think a lot of Republicans even want to realize. And I think that realization is slowly creeping in as we're finding out more and more about the anomalies of these stories and the stories of how, hey, they're lying through their teeth. They failed their job. They didn't do a good job at all. But more importantly, I think they were personally complicit in what was the attempted taking of Donald Trump's life. That's my particular take on it. I don't know if you have any particular aspects, whether it was just gross incompetence or whether it was a deliberate kind of attack on Donald Trump.
Well, obviously, I've heard that the argument of is it gross incompetence or is it something more insidious and nefarious? And I suppose listening to you here, it's plain that is often the case in the last few years, it seems. Ulterior motives and secondary narratives that are not immediately revealed. The word you used was anomalies, and that seems like an accurate one. To not have Secret Service on a roof on the basis that it is sloped doesn't seem to be a sufficient reason. That's like not having someone on a grassy knoll because it's too grassy. Secret Service have got to get themselves into these quarters and into these conditions. I was listening to you very intently, and this came to my mind. You know the famous phrase that Ben Shapiro often cites as having come from Andrew Breitbart, politics is downstream from culture. Well, culture is downstream from technology. And I think that where we are now in the independent media space is that now new immediate narratives and counter-narratives are formed in real time. If Elon Musk, whatever you think of him, did not own X, you would not have access to this plethora of ideas and theories that are being widely populated now. That stuff would have been blocked and censored and shadow banned and controlled. Now we're in a space that is going to become increasingly difficult to marshal. And I wonder if the Republican Party movement or the Democrat Party movement will have the agility to adapt to a political sphere that's changing because it's being driven by technology and culture more than it's being driven by ideology. So I would anticipate that in the next few years, regardless of the result of the election in November, which increasingly seems likely, of course, to be a Trump-Vance victory, unless, of course, there are further unusual events between now and then, is I would say that how is government of this nature going to adapt to the new mercurial conditions that they find themselves
Exactly.
in?
Well, thank you for being a part of the independent media. Thank you so much for allowing people to have different particular voices and highlighting that, because I think it's more important than ever as psyops, as major kind of conspiracies are being unraveled in real time. And I think now we're living in a very so important time where the Rumbles, the Twitters are allowing free speech on a way where we never had that opportunity before. And I thank you for taking full charge of it. I know you got to go because your team has to get you out of here.
Yeah, I've got to go somewhere else. Isn't it so weird here? Luke, thank you so much.
Crazy.
Brianna, thank you for your time. And I apologize for making you late for your stream. And I apologize to your vast and wonderful audience.
No worries.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned. We'll be in touch.